The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Hello and welcome to Fantasy Football to the Max. I am your host, Brandon Biskobing, and joining me tonight is Mr. Jason Teasley. Jason, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going? Living the dream?
Yep, pretty much. We're a little behind schedule, but kind of better because now, we have a better idea of what's going on with OTAs starting and all of that. Getting closer and closer to that NFL season. Tonight we're gonna go in spurts. This week we're gonna be talking quarterbacks and tight ends. Next week we'll talk running backs and wide receivers, and then the following week we'll do what do you say, 2-round mock draft?
Yeah, we're going to do a 2-round rookie mock draft.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, like I said, we're gonna start off with quarterbacks, and I'll let you start. Who do you have at number one?
Well, just to preface, these are our top 10 PPR fantasy football quarterbacks.
Yep.
That doesn't mean who we think's the best quarterback in the league,
No,
but who we think is the best quarterback fantasy-wise.
Yes.
With that being said, I think it's going to go back to my number one quarterback from last year that I had at the top of my list at the end of the season, and that is Mr. Russell Wilson from Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, Russell Wilson is definitely a good pick. Wilson brings that added benefit of being a running quarterback as well, which allows him to do so much more and get you so many more points because, the running adds double. But just on a purely consistency basis, I have Wilson at 2, but purely on a consistency basis, I know, things weren't 100% last year. But just on a consistency basis and all of that, I have to put Aaron Rodgers at the top.
I mean, I can't really argue with that. The only reason that I don't have Rodgers at my number one is because, he kind of lost his number one weapon to the Raiders this year.
Yeah, that I'll give you that.
He doesn't have his safety blanket with Jordy being there.
Yeah.
But they did add a legitimate, strong tight end with Jimmy Graham.
Exactly.
So
because
that gives him a big red zone target.
Exactly. We'll talk more about tight ends later, but I think that, like you said, he loses his security blanket in Nelson, but Jimmy Graham kind of gives you that, underneath safety blanket back where, he's your dump off. He's your last resort type of guy that if everyone else is covered, you can just dump it off to Graham and he's still going to get you a good 3, 4, 5 yards after the catch.
Yeah, he's going to be a big body to bring down. So, since you did bring up Rodgers, that is actually my number 2.
So we have them reversed.
Yeah, we have them switched, which is not. Honestly, we could say 1A, 1B.
Yeah,
there's the only knock that you have that on the edge that I gave Wilson is his mobility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's got a crappy offensive line, but that means he's going to be scrambling a lot.
That
means
the only
he's going to
thing
be picking up points off the rush.
Yeah. That's the one thing I'm a little worried about with Wilson is, like you said, his line isn't exactly the greatest. That it's not that top-notch line that they had back in 2013. But and that's going to be an issue because if you're forcing him to be more of a running quarterback than a pocket quarterback, that leaves him open to those hits and injuries and everything that comes with being more of a running quarterback.
But
we'll talk about What?
They did add a strong veteran wide receiver and a nice explosive rookie that can catch passes out of the
True.
backfield.
Very true.
So he's got some little check down dump offs that can still help him improve overall.
I'll give you that. Okay, moving on to number 3. Why don't you start since I went number 2 last time?
Well, no, I counted with my Rodgers.
Oh, okay. Okay, then I'll go with my number 3. My number 3, yes, he's coming off of an injury. We'll talk about someone else, I'm sure, later on that's also coming off of an injury. But I still think, especially considering he only played for about half the year last year, Deshaun Watson is still going to be a very, very strong fantasy quarterback this year.
See, I'm going to go out on the record. I was not a big Watson fan. Was not. He came out of college. Was not very big on him. He landed in Houston. I was like, okay, he's going to be a clipboard holder for a year, maybe learn the system. And he just had that work ethic that wanted to get him on the field. And once he got on the field, oh my God, he blew my mind.
Oh yeah.
Now I'm not as high on Watson as you are. Well, he's a little bit further down my list, but I think the reason why he's further down my list, I think I got him at like number 6, is because one, he's injury prone.
I'll give you that.
He's injury prone, and now teams have tape on him that he's not going to come in and catch defenses because coming in, nobody had tape on him.
Yeah.
Nobody had that game plan. I think the injury coupled with the fact that teams can actually prepare for him now, know his style, I think he's still going to be effective. He's my dark horse shade at number 6, but I think he can make a huge impact as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah. I mean, yes, me putting him that high is definitely an optimistic view. But I think the combination of the fact that, while yes, you said they do have tape on him, they don't have as much tape as they have had on some other running quarterbacks in the past. They haven't had a full season of him. So he may still have a little bit of that edge. And also, I think maybe the injury may have taught him, maybe him being in the background, maybe he can learn a little bit and be more of a balanced quarterback this year.
Yeah. For Texans fans, I sure hope so because him and Watson hooking up with Hopkins, and I mean, you have a dynamic 1-2 punch quarterback wide receiver. It's probably one of the best young combos you have in the NFL currently. I mean, they're definitely in the conversation with the best quarterback wide receiver.
Oh yeah.
With that being said, I'm going to take an ageless wonder at number 3, strictly because he has all kinds of weapons around him, and I'm going to go Drew Brees. I mean, Michael Thomas, and then he has Kamara, and after the 4-game suspension, he's going to have Ingram and Kamara out of the backfield again for those little check downs. The only thing that the Saints are lacking is a solid tight end for Brees. Outside of that Saints offense is going to move the ball a lot. Michael Thomas is a great downfield threat. Plus, once he catches the ball at any point on the field, he can take it to the house. So that's why I'm going to put Drew Brees up in my number 3 spot.
I have Brees right underneath Watson at 4. I mean, like you said, all great points. The only thing I'm a little worried about, like you said, is that he doesn't have that check down. And Brees is notorious for being a deep ball guy. So, with the big yardages, you may get a few interceptions along the way.
Yeah, I mean, but Brees has the ability to throw the ball and just let Thomas run under it and catch it. So So my number 4 is another. This is going to make a lot of fans of the kickoff a little upset. I'm going to go with Brady at my number 4. I mean, to be 115 years old with a walker and the loss of Cooks and everything, he doesn't have a legitimate wide receiver, but he's getting Edelman back. Him and Edelman have such great chemistry. We're going to talk about one of his other favorite receiving targets a little bit later on when we talk to tight ends, when we discuss Gronk. But, I mean, Brady, he has the will to win, and he can make stars out of the most minuscule, talented receivers in the NFL. I mean, he's making the likes of Hogan relevant. They went out and got Jordan Matthews. I think Jordan Matthews is in line to have a career year just because he's going to be lined up with Tom Brady throwing him the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, and maybe this is just wishful thinking, but there's got to be a time where Father Time finally catches up. And we saw it in the Super Bowl. I mean, they didn't have exactly the greatest game against the Eagles. I think this may finally be it. I mean, he's not going to go completely down the tube or anything, but like I said, maybe this is just me being hopeful. I said this last year with Brady, and he proved me wrong. But I think this year I have him. I think at 8 or 9. So we'll see. In at 5 for me, is Carson Wentz. Yes, again, another guy that's coming off of an injury. But all of those weapons he has, the fact that, Nick Foles was able to lead this team to a Super Bowl. Wentz, I'm worried about a little bit of a sophomore slump. And I'm worried about him being a little, a little timid in the beginning of the season because of the injury. But I think, especially with all of the weapons that Philly has, that he is going to be a very good quarterback. I was tempted to put him even higher, but
I've got Wentz a little bit lower. I've got him right behind Watson at my 7th spot, and it's not based on talent alone. I'm basing it on this year primarily, and I think it's going to be the fact that he is coming off such a severe knee injury.
Oh no, that's why I put that little disclaimer right there. That
I think that's what. If it wasn't for injuries, I would have Wentz and Watson higher than at my 6 and 7.
Yeah,
but the injuries kind of have me a little concerned about. They're going to be a little gun shy coming out, and they're both franchise quarterbacks, so you don't really want to rush them back.
Mm-hmm.
So that would put me on my number 5.
Yes.
Which this is going to be a little surprise.
Okay.
I think I want to surprise people with this one. It is Mr. Sexy Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
a lot of people are not. A lot of people are on the hype train, but I think the fact that when he came into the league, he got to learn the NFL experience behind one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. Of course, everybody says Brady's a product of the system, but you can be a product of the system and take it somewhere and just refine your skills and then go on to be a superstar. And I think that's what Jimmy G is going to do in San Francisco. I mean, they're surrounding him with all kinds of talent. He proved that he is He is more than capable once given the starting job. So yeah, I'm going to be sold on Jimmy G being a top 5 quarterback.
I'm not quite as high as him as you are, but I do have him in my top 10.
Okay, I mean, I think he's got a lot to prove.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
I think I'm on the hype train as well. But I mean, I've been a huge fan of his. Uh, he's got a great work ethic. He's got uh, a special knit for the game. Just he's always learning, always observing. They say he's a film room junkie. You can always catch him breaking out tapes and stuff. So being a student of the game like that, and plus learning under Brady, I think that may give him an edge over some other Brady backups. And the fact that Tom Brady was so intimidated as having him as a backup that it's came out that he was one of the main people to get Garoppolo traded out of New England.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Oh, that definitely plays a big factor on how high you have to put him. The only reason why I'm a little lower on him is because, like we've talked about with Watson and Wentz, while he's not coming off of an injury, it's one of those situations where how much of his success last year in San Francisco was because of the momentum and that, energy that he brought in coming into the organization. Just like as, when a new head coach comes into a team after they've been struggling, suddenly they go on a little bit of a run, but then they fall back. I'm worried that may happen with San Francisco, where now that teams have more tape on him and everything, that now he may show some of his weaknesses.
That's a big possibility, but I mean, it's also that NFC West is going to be brutal anyway because I mean, the Rams have stacked their defense.
Yeah. Oh, the NFC West, I would dare say that the NFC West is probably going to be the most competitive division in the NFL this year. Because all 4 teams have a legitimate shot.
Yeah, well, yes, I can agree with that to an extent. I think it's going to be a battle at the top between San Fran and the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a significant divide between the top 2 teams in San Francisco and the Rams and the Cards and Seattle. I think there's a great divide. I think it'll be competitive, but it's going to be their interdivisional matchups are going to be what shows the cream of the crop.
Oh yeah, definitely. So what
are so we know my 6 and 7 as Watson and Wentz. Yes. So who do you got at 6 and 7?
I've got Cam Newton at 6, and let me look real quick. I've got Brady at 7.
Okay, I mean, I got Cam right at 8. It's one of those things that I'm just really behind Cam. I mean, he's got the dual threat. He's got McCaffrey that he can dump passes off. He's got Olsen back this year. I'm just hoping that DJ Moore turns out for his sake, to be a legit number 1 wide receiver. You typically don't see wide receivers develop till their second, maybe third year. You really don't have the likes of Julio Jones, AJ Green producing ungodly numbers coming out of college and entering their first year. So I think that's what Cam is going to take a step back for me. Is it, his points are going to come mostly from what he's best known for, and that's selfish TD vulture.
Yeah. Oh no, I'll agree with that. But I do think that he will learn from the issues that, or at least I'm hoping. I'm being very hopeful here that he will learn from the issues that he had last year and fix them and become more of a balanced quarterback.
One can only hope.
Yes, of course.
So okay, so we're on our number 8.
Yes.
My number 8 is a guy that potentially could be the number 1. It all depends on his mentality, and if anything this offseason has shown me about his mentality is that he's a big baby because the team thought had some forward thinking and drafted a potential replacement. And I'm going to go Big Ben. He has the weapons around him with Juju, with AB, and with Bell if Bell doesn't hold out again. But I think his ego is what's going to hold him back.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he came out, threw a big fit about Mason Rudolph getting drafted, which I think is a great landing spot for Rudolph. I think he makes he can actually play in Pittsburgh and succeed and learn from Ben.
Oh yeah.
As long as he doesn't go out to the club with Ben and pick up Ben's habits, I think he'll be okay. But I think that Ben has the ability to have God-like MVP numbers come this fantasy season if he can get out of his own way and get his ego in check.
Yes. I have been in the same exact spot. I'm gonna use my reference from last year. I think it's gonna be my new shtick for the year. It is the Burger Roethlisberger. Yes, I have him at 8 as well. So yeah, I completely agree with everything you said. The big thing with Roethlisberger, and especially if you are in a dynasty league, or even if you're not, sometimes some fantasy owners choose to do this. If you're gonna draft Big Ben, you may want to draft
Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, Mason Rudolph behind him later on in the draft. Because, like Jason said, if Big Ben can't get out of his own way and is too paranoid, is too self-absorbed and everything, even though Tomlin, Ben has been there for, over, almost 15 years. I would not be surprised, especially with the culture in Pittsburgh of, it's very much like New York, very much like New England. We want to win now. If Ben starts struggling, I would not at all be surprised if Tomlin, especially if Rudolph is showing a lot of potential in training camp and during the preseason, if Tomlin doesn't have a very quick hook for a Roethlisberger.
I'm right there with you. I think Big Ben is his own worst enemy outside of lawyers.
Yes.
So, all right, number 9. Yep. I think that's where we're at, right?
Yes, we're at number 9. My number 9 is someone who's going to have to learn a new system. But this is another very hopeful pick. There's a lot of, very hopeful picks in this top 10. Because, let's face it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but with the exception of the very tippy top, there's a lot of ifs in the quarterback class of this year.
I can agree with that. I mean, there was a lot of moving pieces that can affect some outcomes.
And one of the biggest moving pieces was Minnesota deciding to move away from oh wow. Who was their quarterback last year? That just shows how bad it is that we're both drawing a blank.
Was it Keenan?
Yeah, well, Case Keenum. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Moving away from Case Keenum and going for a supposedly more accomplished quarterback in Kirk Cousins, coming from Washington. And again, I'm being hopeful here that Minnesota offense, is still going to be proficient enough with Kirk Cousins at the helm that he will have a solid fantasy year this year.
He's not in my top 10. He is not my top 10. Reason being, I don't think he's going to fit the system as well as everybody's expecting.
Yeah. Like I said, this is a very hopeful pick.
Yeah. I think he had a better landing spot than Minnesota to go to, but I don't think that Elway wanted to give him the numbers. I think he would have been a great fit in Denver.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely.
Especially with that high altitude and his arm strength.
Mm.
He had Sanders and DT being, he could have made them a dynamic wide receiver duo. And so, I mean, I like Cousins. Don't get me wrong. I was a huge Cousins fan when he came out of college, and I hated seeing him land in Washington when he came out of college because it was a division rival. But I'm glad he's finally showing the abilities that he had, and that he can go on and hopefully prove me wrong in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. But I think he's right outside my top 10. And I just think there's a lot of question marks with him learning a new system, and you never know what you're going to get with Diggs. I mean,
yeah.
He can explode one game and be absent the next 3.
Mm-hmm.
So my number 9 is a very young quarterback. He's on a team that has a lot of weapons, and he doesn't have to be a huge point scorer, but with the weapons he has and the defense he has, I think he's going to be able to hang in that top 10. That's Jared Goff. I think them adding Cooks. He's got Robert Woods. He's got Cup. I think he has all the weapons, and they're all young. I think he has a very bright future. I think it's going to take him a little bit of time to assimilate and get on the right page with them. But I think most of his points are going to come down the back half of the season, and that's what's going to push him into my top 10.
Yeah, I mean, there are 2 guys that fall just outside of the top 10 for me. Goff is one, and the other, in spite of how much I hate to say it, the other one is Dak Prescott.
Oh, I think he's going to be the biggest bust ever this year.
I think he'll be an improvement this year from last year just because he has Zeke back.
But he has no receivers to throw.
I'll give you that. I will give you that. It's that's another one. Like I said before, there are a lot of question marks when it comes to quarterbacks this year.
Oh, there's no question marks in Dallas. They're Jerry Jones is the new Al Davis.
Oh well, of course we knew.
Did not.
We've known this for the last 10 years.
and him and Jason Garrett show their incompetence by saying we're going to make it where Dak can succeed, and we're not going to sign Dez, who is the number one receiver he has, and we're not going to address our glaring wide receiver need in round one, and we're going to let Jason Witten retire and not address that either. So yeah, Zeke, you and Dak got here, win games. I think Dallas is a train wreck.
Mm-hmm.
I think they had every opportunity to add a stud young receiver. I think Ridley would have been unbelievable in Dallas, and by far would have fit that offense great, and that would have gave you a huge plus nucleus by having Dak, Zeke, and Ridley. I think that would have scared some teams. You could have got some nice little contributing wide receivers to come in, and I think that might have been a concern for Jason Witten not coming back. That he's seen that his window is closing, and he's not a person who likes losing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't have the support of your front office and they don't support your team the way you feel, it's time to get out while you still can.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right, who's rounding out your top 10?
Well, like we talked about before, I said I had him in my top 10, not quite as high as you did, but my name is Jimmy Garoppolo.
So
Jimmy Garoppolo.
I mean, I've already sang the praises of sexy Jimmy G.
That was still the best introduction to Jimmy Garoppolo of all time that Rob Riggle did back a couple of years ago.
Oh, Rob Riggle, he is great. He is great.
The two best for me was the Jimmy Garoppolo song that he did a couple of years ago, and then him doing mocking Stranger Things last year.
For me, it's him and the guy from Hangover.
Oh, yeah.
Parodying "Hello" by Adele, and he's talking about the NFC East. For me, that's one of the best ones.
That was a good one too.
But I mean, he's the reason I tune in for Fox Sunday morning.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's not for anybody else. I mean, they do have Strahan, but
exactly. You can't disrespect Strahan.
I wonder if every time I see Strahan on TV, I don't know if I should wave or kick a field goal. So I mean, but my number 10 guy is a guy that I made the bold prediction he was going to be my MVP last year. Yeah. I kind of look stupid saying that. But I think that this year he's going to prove something. And that is Mr. Marcus Mariota. I think he's a young quarterback, but I think his window to learn is slowly closing.
Fast.
And the hype that I give him might be the only hype he's getting currently. So I think he has something to prove this year.
Yeah, I mean he certainly had an opportunity last year. They made it to the playoffs last year. But yeah, he has a lot to learn. Him and Winston both of the top two from that class. Their window of becoming top caliber quarterbacks is closing fast.
I think Winston's overrated.
I agree entirely, but I also think Mariota's a little overrated at times.
You watch your mouth. So with us top 10s, let's do one. Let's make one more pick. I want to blindside you.
Okay.
I'm prepared. the biggest QB bust this year
Oh.
that everybody is expecting to have a great year, but falls flat on his face? Yeah, I see. It makes you think. I
Well,
got
like
mine.
I said, there's a lot of quarterbacks that, there's a lot of question marks with a lot of quarterbacks. So it's like, I, I, the two that I can think of, the most are either, and I know I put him in the top 10, but either Cousins or Prescott.
My two biggest busts are going to be Derek Carr and Alex Smith.
Alex Smith, I can understand because, like, a lot of people are saying, oh, he's going to do something in Washington. But, but see, the thing about that, though, is that Washington, what have they really shown with Kirk Cousins? And while, yes, Smith may be a bit of an an improvement, it's not a huge improvement. And Carr just, I just don't see it.
This is the reason why I take Alex Smith.
Okay.
Alex Smith is not a franchise quarterback.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
He is a game managing quarterback that if you need to control clock and not make flashy, I mean, he'll have some sneaky great games. I mean, don't get me wrong. But he's the type of quarterback that you put in and is a game manager.
Mm-hmm.
He's not gonna light up your stat lines, but he's gonna be that middle of the road, just trugging on through, nothing spectacular, and have sneaky 300-yard games that go unnoticed. Carr, on the other hand, I think Carr has the weapons. I think he's a victim of his own circumstance. I think one, he's a second Carr person, quarterback. I think his brother, I mean, he's leaps and bounds ahead of his brother and a lot better than his brother. But I think in the back of his head, he compares them. He has that inner turmoil. And I think he gets in his own head, and he thus causing the poor decision making at time. Mm-hmm. That coupled with, I don't think John Gruden's going to be a great coach.
Mm-hmm.
I think his best years as a coach are behind him. Now, I wouldn't be saying this if he was the Giants head coach. I think he would. I would be saying he's the best thing since sliced bread. Yep. But I think Gruden going back to the Raiders, I think that might have been a mistake, and I think it's going to tarnish the coaching legacy that everybody has John Gruden and the pedestal they put him on.
Yeah. Now let me throw a curveball at you. Now, you talked about busts. Now let's talk. Who's one quarterback that is lower down in the rankings for you right now, but could be a surprise?
Do you even have to ask that?
What?
Do you even have to ask that question? You know where I'm going.
I think I know where this is going already.
You get two people that root for the same team on a podcast, and you don't hear Eli Manning.
Yes, I know. I know. It's shocking that we haven't talked about Eli yet.
But also, I think Eli's in that twilight of his career.
Yes.
I think Eli's definitely going to improve on his year.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about that when we touch on our tight ends, because I think he has a true stud as a tight end now. Honestly, I think, and this is going to surprise you, I think the resurgence of everybody that they put around him, that nobody's giving him a chance, I think it's going to be Tyrod Taylor.
I just don't see it just because it's Cleveland. And Cleveland's gonna Cleveland.
I don't know, man. I mean, he has the weapons. He's a nice mobile quarterback, strong arm, and he has a lot of weapons. I mean, he's got a stud tight end.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 3 wide receivers that are like, they have solid hands and are fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, and he's got a nice little competitive drive to him. So he's got Mayfield breathing down his neck. So I think that if they don't throw Mayfield to the wolves and they let Taylor start, I think that he's going to impress people and he's going to hold off. I think Mayfield might be just holding the clipboard for the year.
I could see that. My stud that's gonna surprise some people. I think especially with that defense he has, I think the pressure will be taken off. Blake Bortles, I think could be a decent quarterback.
Who's he going to throw the ball to? I think they signed like the guy. I think they signed 2 season ticket holders. Tracks. I don't know. We might have to check with Eric on that. I think they might even offered Eric a contract. I don't know. I mean, he might be the starting tight end for Jacksonville this year. That's why he vanishes for hours upon end. He might be at OTAs. So okay, with us wrapping up quarterbacks, we're going to kind of I think we should just rapid fire these tight ends. I mean, we went real in depth on these quarterbacks.
Okay.
So let's rapid fire our top 5.
Okay.
I'll let you go first. Your top 5 tight ends.
Okay. Gronk, Ertz, Kelsey, Olsen, Graham.
All right. We've got a couple. We got quite a few same names, just different order. My top 5. I told you off air. Gronk is my number 4. How crazy is that when
Quite.
you say Gronk's your number 4, but the 3 people I have in front of him is Ertz, Kelsey, and I just hinted on him a little while ago, Evan Ingram.
Mm-hmm. He was at 6 for me.
I think Ingram is going to be. I think this is a breakout year. He was thrust into a main receiving role when the Giants were signing street bums off the subway station last year to play receiver. I think he got that limelight, that thrust into being Eli's go-to guy. But now that they got a little bit of cushion, I think that teams are going to sleep on Ingram, and Ingram is going to break out like crazy.
The big key for Ingram is what plagued them last year. Will the rest of the receiving core be able to stay healthy?
Yeah, that's true. And my number 5 is a guy that changed teams. And when he changed teams, we talked about him a little earlier. We talked about the quarterback. He's going to be a huge red zone target. And I think my number 5 is Jimmy Graham.
Yep.
I think that he's going to flourish in that offense with Rodgers. I think he's going to be a huge red zone target. And Rodgers hasn't really had a legitimate upper echelon tight end in his career. I mean, he's had contributors. He's had those journeymen that are blue collar workers. He's not had a legit force at tight end that Jimmy Graham had been. And I think you're going to see the resurgence of Jimmy Graham back when he was playing with Drew Brees.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So you said you had Olsen. Olsen is my number 6. He's right out. I think he's coming back from a foot injury, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to hamper him. And the fact that Cam's going to be typically a run first quarterback, and that's going to hurt Olsen. So that's my top 6. I threw. Since you had already brought up Olsen, I figure I'd go ahead and address him at my number. Where
Well,
I've got him.
I put my number 6 in there too with Ingram.
Okay, so we're the only one difference we have in our top 6 is Graham, isn't it?
Well, no, I had Graham in my top 5.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had the same 6,
We got
just different order.
different order. All right, who you got at 7? Now my seven's gonna surprise you. I'm curious where you're gonna blindside me with.
Kyle Rudolph.
See, we're on the same wave. I've got him at 8.
Oh, okay. Who do you have at 7? Delaney Walker?
No, George Kittle.
Oh, wow. Okay, that really blindsided me.
George Kittle, I think he's going to be great. He showed flashes last year. He's got a good chemistry with sexy Jimmy G. And I think he's going to be that security outlet that Garoppolo is going to lean on. I think that this is I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm probably going to catch a lot of flack. I think this is your new 2.0 version of Brady Gronk.
It's still a little too early to talk that sort of comparison, but I think if they are successful this year and they are able to make the playoffs, then yeah, I could definitely see that comparison.
So, I mean, I know that I knew you were sleeping on him.
Yeah,
that's why
I was.
I slid him in there, catch you off guard,
Yeah,
wake you up, make sure you're paying attention.
Since we're at it, we might as well go through the rest of our top 10. Since we're up to number 9 already. My number 9 is Jordan Reed.
See, I've got Reed at 10, and the only reason why I've got Reed at 10 is his injury concerns. You're not going to get 16 games out of him.
Yeah. And then my number 10 is Tyler Eifert.
See, I think Eifert's going to be a non-factor. I've got Delaney Walker at my number 9. Strictly because, I mean, I'm got that Mariota hype. So I got.
Well, I had Walker higher than you did, though.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean I can't leave Delaney out. If I'm gonna hype up Mariota, I've got to hype up Delaney.
Of course.
So I mean, we've got a lot of similar players. Just we just view them.
Yeah.
They're 1-2 position slots off. So I think that I think we share the same mind. Unfortunately, that's bad news for you. But I think this is going to be interesting. That's why I want to do quarterbacks and tight ends together, because I mean, wide receivers you can go deep, but there's a lot of questions at quarterback, and tight ends are some unsung heroes at times. Yeah. I mean,
and there's such a drop off from the top guys to like the middle of the pack guys.
Yeah, there's a wide gap. I mean, you've got your top 3, and then things kind of start getting a little murky after the top. I mean, your top 3. Well, typically your top 3 is you're going to hear Gronk, Ertz, Kelsey.
Yeah,
those are the 3 that people's going to interchange. I mean, I threw Ingram in there simply because one, I think Gronk's head isn't in the game. I think he's already exploring his way out. I don't think, and he hasn't played 16 games since like 2011.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, he's like Reed, all kinds of talent, not very durable.
Well, but
So
that's a good thing about when it comes to the tight end position, especially in most leagues, you only have one tight end spot. So if you're willing to jump that high for Gronk to draft him, then that's great. But then draft another one of these upper echelon tight ends as a backup in case he gets injured.
yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. This is what fantasy. This is one position that can win or lose you.
Oh yeah.
Fantasy football is tight end. I mean, people don't really put a lot of thought into their tight end selections, but
The
I mean,
last three
a good tight end could win a championship.
The last three positions to normally go are normally the ones that get drafted or are the ones that can win or lose a championship. Tight end, kicker, and defense.
Well, see, in all my leagues, we don't run kickers.
Oh, you guys don't do kickers at all?
No, we and 90% of my leagues we don't draft kickers because we see that kickers are just kickers. And
see, I go all out. I like doing not only kickers, but I like doing IDP leagues. I would still love. I mean, if anyone's out there creating a fantasy football league with offensive linemen available, I'm all down for that.
you're all down for it.
Yep.
But speaking of IDP, that's going to be your task this year. You're going to be my IDP guy.
Oh, I know
I'm
this.
I'm not very familiar with going IDP leagues. You pitched it when we first started getting the show together. You want to have an IDP section, so it's going to be W2M's A-lister teaching me something.
Yep.
So yes, you're the biz now. Not you. We're going to have biz TV. So Mike, the Miz, you got to step out of the limelight. We got somebody taking your place. So with that, I think we can wrap this up pretty nice and neat.
Yeah, I think we're just about done. Yeah, be sure to tune in next week when we talk running backs and wide receivers. And yeah, then the next week after that, we'll do a 2-round mock draft. Probably take a bit of a hiatus until August, and then do more in-depth fantasy football coverage as we get closer to the regular season. So yeah, be sure to tune in for all that. For Jason Teasley, I'm Brandon Biskobing saying so long, and we'll talk to you guys next week. See ya.